Hey everyone, if you didn't know, I actually turned 21 recently, so you know what that means. Pottery! Yep, as per the laws where I live, I can now pursue pottery. A lot of my friends have been doing it for a while now apparently, but honestly, I haven't seen any of the pots they've made so far, so I don't know what they've been doing every night for the last few years. But yeah, I really like it. It helps me relieve some stress, and I get a functioning pot at the end of the process. I can put water in it. I'm just gonna leave it here since this is probably the safest place for it to be. I feel so calm right now, there's nothing that can piss me off. Right? So a while back, I made a video on Fnaf for the 3DS. If you haven't seen it already, I would highly suggest you watch it before this one. However, for a quick summary on this video, I reviewed a fan-made port of Fnaf on the 3DS, which was surprisingly good. Now, it wasn't perfect. However, this port went to show how Fnaf was made for dual-screen platforms. It's a no-brainer. This particular port only had the cam selections on the bottom screen, but it still made the actual gameplay more immersive because there was a touchscreen element that was actually implemented quite well. If the 3DS had a bigger screen and more processing power, I'm sure that we would have had a perfect port on our hands. But I did mention a different platform Fnaf would also be good on, the Wii U. We all know the Wii U, right? I think it's that thing Nintendo put down recently with no remorse. I wonder what it can do now since it can't go online. Maybe it can hold water. But aside from the closure of all the online features of the Wii U and 3DS, it's still a great platform. The Wii U has a lot of problems, but the dual screen system is still very novel and allows the system to be very flexible in multiple play styles. You can play a game with two screens, use the Wii U gamepad as a sort of proto-switch, or just not use the gamepad screen at all. This is an option, but you also have access to literally the entire Nintendo backlog, including GameCube if you mod the system. And this is the only official Nintendo console to offer DS games on the big screen. That is crazy. While the Wii U failed, there are still many unique playstyles this console has that will always be very cool and something that just can't be replicated by other hardware. And that's where this port comes in. Fnaf is a match made in heaven for the Wii U. Like, think about it. You basically can have the actual camera panel taken out of the game and physically given to you in the real world. It would be so immersive, and since the cams are an integral part of the game, it would actually add some tension since you would be forced to look away from the main office screen to look at the cams on the gamepad. And with gyro, you can even flip up the tablet maybe to activate the screen. The thing is, no official port was made because by the time Fnaf came to consoles, the Switch was already out. And when the Switch came out, the Wii U immediately stopped receiving support. Source Mikeonut is the team behind this Wii U port, and I'm so happy they stepped up to the task of porting this game. They understand the vision. They've had a hand in porting other games to the Wii U specifically. It's their bread and butter. They actually previously ported Portal to the Wii U. That's a mouthful. To the Wii U. And when I saw that they made this, I had to try it. What's amazing is that this game actually installs as an app on the home screen. This isn't always a given on the Wii U since Homebrew is still actively being developed on the platform. It wasn't a really popular platform, so the infrastructure wasn't really there until recently. But it's very nice to see here. So let's take a look at Fnaf on the Wii U. It's not on the gamepad. The gamepad is just a touchscreen. It's not a freaking gamepad, just a screen! So, this is basically just Fnaf on the 3DS but in HD. Even in death, the Wii U will waste its potential. Okay, so I was expecting that this might be a problem. In an attempt to make sure the game is as faithful of a port as possible, they intentionally made it so that the cam covered your office. Which sucks. Like, there is a way to do this other than just moving the cam controls to the gamepad. You can relinquish control to only the gamepad when the cam is up. I can't imagine it to be that hard. The Wii U is capable of so much more. Heck, you ported Portal to the device. It can't be that hard to move the cam to the bottom screen. With that being said, this port is pretty good. But instead of looking at it in a vacuum, I'm going to compare it to the original port on Switch as well as the 3DS port I reviewed in my other video to see where this port stands in the lineup. So this version of the game is literally like the middle ground of both of these ports. The controls on the gamepad mimic both the button controls of the Switch version and the touchscreen controls of the 3DS version. I mentioned in my previous video how I actually preferred the button controls of the 3DS version, and while I do stand by that, I mean, it's fine. Obviously, the Wii U version looks a lot closer to the official Switch version than the 3DS one. The 3DS was trying its hardest, but there is literally only so much you can actually do on the 3DS, you know? And I think that this version of the game, gameplay-wise, is very close to the original. One problem with the 3DS port is that the AI was not accurate to the way that they were in the Switch version, for example, especially when it came to Foxy. With that being said, I felt the trade-off for the convenience of the touchscreen was an okay one. But now, we get the convenience and the accuracy. Some assets are mismatched, like parts and service has the wrong asset for the default state, but the AI seems spot on, especially since around this time, I actually played the original version of Fnaf for a future video. So hey, gameplay is faithful too. By the way, get subscribed if you want to see that upcoming video. It all comes back to the touchscreen. I mentioned this before, but the touch controls of the Switch are there, but they aren't great. I think I was a little bit harsh in my last video because looking back, I realized that this version of the game was optimized for controllers exclusively, since the game was also ported to the PlayStation and Xbox, both platforms that don't have a touchscreen. And it does good enough. You can play Fnaf with a controller. But like the Wii U gamepad touchscreen is so nice, man. Just like the 3DS version, you can jump back and forth between cams from across the screen, and it feels more like the PC or mobile versions that way. It's just intuitive in a way that the Switch can't compete. But again, even though this gamepad functionality is useful, like you can't tell me you didn't have enough resources to get the whole cam on the gamepad, right? The Wii U isn't that weak. What was something that I loved in the 3DS version of the game becomes something I'm disappointed in on the Wii U. Whenever I pick up Fnaf on the 3DS, I would always have like a stupid grin on my face because it's Fnaf on the 3DS, And for the form factor, it worked great. I understand that the cams would have been too cramped on the 3DS, nor do I think the device was strong enough to do both environments at the same time. It makes sense. But whenever I pick up this version, I just keep on thinking of what could have been. My Wii U is modded, and I'm actually able to switch the main display and the gamepad one by changing how the TV button works. Yeah, by the way, this thing has a TV button. By using this mod, I get a glimpse of what could have been. But at the same time, it's still so far from reality because and now the cam menu's on the main display. Sure, I get the aspect of, it's Fnaf on the Wii U, but it just missed the mark for me. Is this a good port? Yes, absolutely, but don't expect anything revolutionary. It's high quality, a well-made fan recreation. If you want to play Fnaf on the Wii U, I would recommend to go download this. It is Fnaf on the Wii U, but it doesn't do anything special other than changing how you interact with the camera, and it does that in the most bare minimum way. So why is there a bit of video left? Okay, so I finished editing this video on the 29th, and it was basically ready to go within the next week. I got up early on the 30th since I had a big date planned, but then I got a message on my public Discord. Feel free to join it, by the way. In the links and promo chat of my Discord, Mystic Tortoise posted this. I made the fabled and fully faithful Fnaf Wii U port. Someone beat me to it, but this one is more accurate. It has shaders and a proper gamepad camera screen. Oh! This is legit everything I wanted from the previous port I looked at. It's amazing. The camera is actually on the gamepad and it works great. I knew it couldn't be that hard. They even got the weird office distortion effect that I hate. Now, I do gotta get in here and quickly mention that this is not a perfect port. I noticed at least two things that were wrong with it. Firstly, on the stage, I realized that the animatronics can actually change mode and stare at you. This is not something that happens in the game, but a lot of people actually think it does because because of the trailer. It doesn't break the game, but it is something that I noticed. And secondly, Foxy's AI is definitely a bit messed up, and I'll explain in two ways. Firstly, he gets activated way earlier than he actually should. You can even see, like, on night 1, I got the "it's me" sign where it's like he's on his way. And second, the game has an oversight which makes it so Foxy just never leaves his cove. So like the actual game, as long as you stay on the cams, you keep Foxy at bay. However, in this port, the controls to the office aren't taken from you when the cams are open. Plus, the cams don't take extra power, so there's literally no incentive to close the cams. That is, unless you want to make the game harder on yourself. It's not a deal breaker. If I were to kind of like line up these versions again, this one is definitely closer to the 3DS version, since it's not as accurate as the other Wii U one that I played, which is really accurate to the official ports. There really is something for everyone. With that being said though, this is like way better in my opinion. I love this version, and I will also link it down below for you guys to check out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Hi.